Okay, this is gonna be a short one for today. We're gonna talk about a common language between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, right? So the the relevance of that is that every divination system that you deal with is going to have some sort of symbols associated with it, whether it be the I Ching, whether it be you know, the EFA system and the Corey shells, whether it be tarot cards, whether it even be astrological symbolism. And there are even systems like casting lots where you um, pick out certain items of significance to you and attribute certain symbolic value to them. And you can do divinatory readings with that. So we're always dealing with some sort of um, symbols. You see what I'm saying? I like to look at these symbols as a language in themselves because that's really what you're reading from. So let's kind of get into this a little bit. When we get into, let's say, like the subconscious mind is accessed via uncertainty or not knowing. So, what you'll find when you get into most of these systems is it's always some sort of element of uncertainty. It's always some part of the system that depends on the person doing the actual reading, not knowing. So, uncertainty is the foundation of all your divinatory sciences and everything like that. I think we talked about that on other videos. Um, the conscious mind operates on consciously known sensory details. So how tall is something, how short is something, colors. Conscious mind typically compares things, tall to short, ugly to pretty, bright to dull, however it may go. Okay, so we have those two parts of the mind. One is the logical three-dimensional mind that deals with this reality. The other one is deals with more abstract concepts and everything like that. Now, the bridge between these two aspects of the mind um, is the nervous system, right? The nervous system deals with, we dealing with your when we deal with the nervous system, you're dealing with your heart, your brain, your central nervous system. You know what I mean, your autonomic nervous system. The brain has its own nervous system. The heart has its own nervous system. The gut has its own nervous system. So you're dealing with basically the wiring of the body. Why is the nervous system so important? Well, all of your when we get into this whole thing about divination or whatever, you're going to be shuffling some cards. You're going to be trying to situate your objects or your symbols in a random type order or whatever, and that random uncertain order is distributed by the impulses in the nervous system and everything like that. Okay, why is that even relevant? The nervous system, we're talking about the nervous system, we're dealing with electricity, right? So the nervous system is electrical. Okay, electricity, and we're gonna go with some old school language here. We're not dealing with the idea of the electron and little BBs and stuff like that. Because even some of the inventors and people like that we admire, let's say like Tesla really didn't believe in the electron. So let's kind of go beyond that. Okay, so electricity is an interplay between magnetism and what old school electrical theory used to call dielectricity. Dielectricity is like the whole thing. Magnetism comes out of that. Electricity is an interplay between magnetism and dielectricity. It's like an offshoot of this or whatever, but it comes out of the whole thing, which would be dielectricity, what have you, originating in what they call counter space. I'm gonna use that terminology a lot in this video. Counter space. Think of like the Starship Enterprise, and they say, "Hey man, Mr. Sulu, we're about to flip in the warp drive." Okay, and then they open up some sort of wormhole, and then it's this weird dimension um of space around them, like this little tunnel that they're going through. And then they pop out on the other side of the galaxy or something like that. So what we're describing is subspace or hyperspace in this conversation. It's something like that. Kind of keep that in your mind. Okay, so when we say dielectricity, it's originating out of counter space. So basically, um, long story short, The electricity that's running your house or what have you is it's energy from another dimension. It doesn't come from where we're standing at right now. It's a similar conversation that was had by um, a scientist by the name of Eric Dollard. He was talking about how the sun is hollow. He's talking about how the sun is a transformer. It basically takes energy from counter space and it distributes it in on this side. And your planets and everything like that are harmonic filters that pick up or resonate with certain frequencies that come out of the sun. That's more of a radio astronomy type conversation, but interesting conversation nonetheless. Now let's get into some let's get into some of this information. In the book Remote Viewing, The Science and Theory of Non-Physical Perception, the author Courtney Brown describes this interplay from this other space into the physical is a low bandwidth connection where information is fainter as opposed to physical senses of the human body, which are louder. His research supports the idea that the mind is non-local to the body, while the brain is located within the body, right? Brown says that there is a non-physical component to all humans, as the remote viewing phenomena is non-local. So remote viewing, they can see Abraham Lincoln's cabin back in the 1800s or whatever case may be, what was under the bearskin rug in the living room. That's the type of detail you get from remote viewing. So it can't be um relegated to the human senses. You see what I'm saying? Okay, so as the remote viewing phenomena is non-local and doesn't rely on the physical senses which correspond with physical body parts, he refers to this space of infinite energy and knowing as hyperspace. So that's that word again, that's that term again. A theoretical construct that can extend into infinite dimensions. In the verbiage of True Master, what I call it in True Master is the realm of principles. So that kind of corresponds, same thing I'm talking about there. Um, some call it subspace, counter space, etc. Hyperspace, subspace, counter space. The realm of principle, all that stuff is pretty much the same thing, because when you get into a lot of these occult traditions, you're going to run into various different names for the same things. Different people have different names for a lot of different stuff. So, according to Brown, the mechanism by which these perceptions interface with physical brain based consciousness, he calls this the physical subspace interface, right? He says it is easier by far for a human to perceive information originating from the five senses than it is for a person to perceive subspace information. The physical subspace interface appears to act as a low bandwidth connector between physical and subspace consciousness. By low bandwidth, it is meant that the interface appears capable of transferring only small amounts of info in a given time when compared with what is possible using the physical senses. He talks about the dangers of misinterpreting the imagination and remembered data from subspace data and the use of techniques to occupy the conscious mind so that it doesn't interfere with the subspace mind. And one of those techniques, the base, just basic example of that would probably be mantras. You occupy the conscious mind with a repetitious phrasing or tone or what have you or whatever, and it frees up access to the what he's calling the subspace mind. On the topic of divination, like what we were speaking before, which has a set number of symbols and a combination of meanings within a given system. Remote viewing deals with ideograms, so it gives a little bit wider range of interpretations and everything like that. But the pros and cons, like we're talking about a language that is understandable by the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. The pros of that, it eliminates the interference from the conscious mind, as long as the language is allowed to be expressed randomly. So if somebody asks you what's in the back room of the Taj Mahal, you already know what the Taj Mahal looks like. You already know. So your conscious mind is gonna fill in the gaps or what have you. But when you don't, when there's uncertainty or what have you, you don't fill in the gaps. So it occupies the conscious mind with a set language and a set parameters. Let's see, the cons are that based on the alphabet that you use, you're limited by the things that can be expressed based on the alphabet that you can use. The last interesting point is that when Brown talks about remote viewing, remote viewer being used as a telescope or a looking glass, being used by the person asking the questions, because the remote viewer um, for it to work, the remote viewer must be kept in a state of uncertainty, kind of like how we were talking about before. So from this, just kind of trying to keep it quick. So from this, the basic conditions that we can kind of arrive at that make this stuff possible on a basic level, excluding somebody who has some sort of extraordinary gift or what have you. If somebody has an extraordinary gift as far as like mediumship or something like that, there's certain let's say some of these things may apply differently. So the four constants that exist within this whole scenario are uncertainty within the person doing the reading, the person whose nervous system we're using to access this information. They have to be in a state of uncertainty. Okay, there has to be some sort of person who knows what they're asking to kind of direct this person's awareness because they're accessing another aspect of the mind, and knowing undermines that their ability to access the other aspect of the mind. So somebody who knows what's going on has to be a part of the whole thing, directing their consciousness to go this place and that place. Okay, the person who's in uncertainty has to have some sort of nervous system feedback loop, whether they're shuffling some cards or um sh- uh, s- scribbling, automatic writing or something like that, touching a pen on a piece of paper, something like that. There has to be some sort of nervous system feedback loop in it. And lastly, the topic of what we were just talking about, there has to be some sort of language that is understood by the conscious mind and the subconscious mind in order to be able to um, take the mind to this place and actually bring this information back. It's not going to come back in a neat form that we understand consciously. It may come back in some different form. Some people, the information comes back in dreams or whatever case may be. And that kind of goes back into what I was saying about people who may have natural gifts. A lot of this is more for a systematic type of way of thinking, as far as like a divinatory system that has an actual structure. However, there are people with certain natural gifts, let's say like a person might be a medium or something like that, and their hypothetical nervous system feedback loop, it might be completely internal. It might be something in their brain or something that just does it automatically or whatever. They don't have to touch anything. They just have a, an epileptic moment or something like that, and they just they have a moment or whatever, and they just see something, see a vision or something like that. The language that they use, they might not need tarot cards, they might not need any type of glyphs or anything or whatever. They might just be able to go straight off their visions. The differentiation between um a vision from this subspace plane that we're talking about and the impressions from their normal senses, they might be able to tell the difference between the two. So a person with natural ability kind of like blurs the lines of some of this stuff. But as far as systems of divination, you're going to need uncertainty. You're going to in the reader, certainty in the person asking the question, some sort of nervous system feedback loop, and some sort of language that the conscious and the subconscious understand. All right, that's all I got for y'all today. Appreciate it. Appreciate y'all listening. Thank you.